I think my biggest question, especially coming off the last round last year at Roof of Africa, when do we see the junior riders start like properly pushing those top riders and stand on the top of the box?
James didn't just push them, like he beat them in South Africa. Obviously, he knows that place, and there's definitely an advantage that those South Africans have there. But it's not like he just came a close second or third or whatever. Like he straight up beat Billy and Manny.
Is there a world where we see all of these nations come together? Like imagine that. Imagine like a Des Nations for hard enduro.
And I'm fascinated with the motocross the nations because I find it super interesting, and you're always like the underdog, you know, like when the Aussies are beating the Americans, you're like, yeah, cool, you know, like, but yeah, the Americans have come on really strong, and like their national series, like Josh Sketcher, like he came over to Romaniacs years ago, and he just came over and he's like, I just want to learn and see and like understand how it works. And so we all need to be working towards a common goal, and I think that includes like the riders in those situations. They need to behave professionally, and even though I agree and I 100% know what he's saying, it's still not the best thing for the sport to say this is shit, you know, because it doesn't look good, it doesn't look cool. If you were to design a track exactly how he wants, what he talks about, then I think you end up with trial GP. You know, you end up with two or three riders who can ride to that level, and you kill it, and you have a class like Gold Class would have 9 riders in it, you know.
I be smoking on that motherfucker. I be real just like
For those of you who aren't familiar with who Mike is, he's one of the few people that can call himself a Red Bull Romaniacs finisher, not once, but twice. He's also a world-class track designer for hard enduro races, and more recently, he's taken up the role as media mark. Hard Enduro World Championship. It's been in a pretty chaotic place the last 3 years. You know, we're on our second promoter in the last 3 years. You were working closely with the old promoter and the new promoter, and you were part of the team when there wasn't actually a championship scheduled. A lot has changed since then. We've got a new promoter on board. They've pretty much made the championship their own for the first time this year. How's your feeling? What are your thoughts for 2026?
That's a good one. Yeah, like clearly there's been so much turmoil, so much uncertainty, and I'm sure like most people who are around the sport, they're aware of that. So yeah, we're going into another year now, and I think we're going to have to see how it goes, to be honest. I think we need to keep positive, and I think we all need to be as professional as we can and do the best job, because I think we should be realistic, and it's fair to say that like in the last few years the sport probably hasn't been where it should be, for various reasons. Like it has been difficult. So now with this fresh start, like I hope as much as anyone that we can start to improve and move forward and get to where we should be, hopefully.
Yeah. It's an interesting point, because like if we think of hard enduro in general, like the sport is definitely growing. Events are growing. I mean, there's events in South Africa like MP Hard Enduro that are hitting incredible numbers for their entries. Even social hard enduro, like let's say hard enduro is subjective, right? Like what's hard to you is different to me. But yeah, like the sport of hard enduro is growing quite a bit. But yet we saw the championship and just like, you know, the premiere of the sport not really reaching the potential that we think it can get to. And I completely agree that, yeah, we need to stay positive. The jobs need to be done well. From what it looks like things are going pretty well for, the preparation leading up to the season, but that's also on the front end of it. Like we don't really know what's going down on the back end.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree. Like for example, like a bunch of guys I know through mountain biking who live in Queenstown. They've all got motorbikes now, and they all ride hard enduro on the weekends. And I think it's so rad. Like it's definitely growing for sure. And the interest is still there. I mean, it's always had a big reach. Like Red Bull have always said, it gets huge numbers. Our top riders have huge following on social media. So like there is the interest there. It's such a cool sport. People want to know it. It comes across well. It's super interesting. But yeah, it does feel like every time it seems like we kind of get a fresh start and things should start to roll on and we get to the next level, something always happens and we don't seem to quite get there. So and I think this is clear. Like it depends probably who you listen to and who you talk to, but like for sure, I think the riders have been quite vocal about this. And if you look at sort of from the outside, sometimes it doesn't look great. Like when you have certain things happening or certain events and, you know, we don't seem to have like a cohesive direction sometimes. So hopefully this can start to improve and we can get moving where we should be. Yeah.
Yeah. The sport is relatively new. Do you see this as being like just the growing pains of the sport? Like, you know, you have to go through these hard times in order to see the better times?
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, when I came back to Europe in 2014 to ride hard enduro basically, or to be involved. And it felt like then it was really moving and it was going somewhere. Like it felt like there was these new events, there was so many riders, there was more teams, there was more, it seemed like more sponsorship, I'm not sure. And it felt like from then it kind of didn't really take the next step. And for whatever reason, we kind of just like, it's like the handbrake was stuck on a few clicks and it couldn't get rolling. So I don't feel like this is a new, I don't think it's like a new issue. I feel like it's sort of been an ongoing thing. And if I'm honest, I don't really know what the exact answer is. I mean, I think everyone has their own opinions, but I think television coverage is a huge thing. If that can be implemented, then you can sell it. You can sell the sport to prospective sponsors, can't you? And then once those sponsors come in, outside sponsors, then there's more money, there's more teams want to get involved, and then more riders can get sponsored and more riders can race the championship or whatever. And then I feel like then it snowballs and it starts to get going. But so maybe, that's how I see it. But I think, there's different ways to skin a cat.
There's 2 points that you mentioned now. One was sponsorships, and I really do think that the sport needs sponsors outside of the world of motorcycles. Like we almost need those bigger brands, those bigger companies that are really behind the mission and pretty much what Hard Enduro stands for. They've got the marketing budget to get involved and you know, hopefully bring more money to the sport, get more riders to the races, more teams, fill the paddocks out and the start lines to the way that we believe it can. And then the second thing you mentioned was media. This is something that's, I think, so difficult when it comes to hard enduro. Red Bull did it so well back in the day. They were covering all the events. You were part of the team there with a GoPro, with a camera, filling us in with what's going down in the middle of the mountains. How do you see that working out from like a TV coverage perspective, like where signal's so different, where I know it's a talking point that you and your team have discussed, you know, before, like how do we get this thing on TV? Is there any way?
I think Erzberg is a really good example. Like it's a huge team. Like I worked properly with them for the first time last year with Paul Bolton, and like to see the scale of it, the amount of people involved, like the experts, the technology they use. Like I think to do it properly, there's no point doing it just with a couple of cameras and having some kind of basic live stream, because at the end of the day, I don't think that really comes across right and doesn't really do it justice. But like what makes Erzberg so incredible and so special to watch and why everyone watches it at home is because they've got the helicopter, they've got enough live cameras, they've got so much going on, they have like people around the track and they're doing it properly. And this comes across well, if you know what I mean. So I think what it kind of worries me a little bit is if you go in halfway and don't really commit to it, it ends up looking a bit like, oh, I'm not sure people were going to tune back into it. Like,
good point.
It's like anything. I think if you're going to do something, you need to do it like the best as you can. You do it properly, and then I think it works out.
Yeah. With a race like Erzberg, it's one of the exceptions in a sense because of the format of the race. You know, it's in a really relatively small area, like camera crews can get to the specific locations to make that happen. I know that the riders were really behind standardizing a format for the Hard Enduro World Championships. Like, what are your thoughts behind that?
I've spoken to the riders quite a bit about this, and I kind of gone from one side to the other and kind of now back to the middle. Like for me, if I take it back to the basics, like when I came to Europe and I wanted to these races that when I was back in New Zealand and I was reading and watching about these legendary events, like the ones that really caught my imagination were the ones that you have like a real adventure and you go somewhere, like a kind of a longer format, which is like you stuff like Romaniacs, even Sea to Sky, Extros in Serbia, these kind of events. And I think it needs to be a mix. I think you still need some of these races that you really do go out to the back and middle of nowhere and it's an adventure and there's no one else out there and you're on your own, just you and your bike. And then also having races like a smaller condensed short course multi-lap race is also so cool and so good and so accessible, and you can ticket it and you can sell tickets, you can raise money that way, which is also a lot of organizers need. So I don't think, because I know some of the riders like for you talk to Billy or Matt, I'm not sure exactly what they think now, but they were definitely like, yeah, like it should all just be standardized, the same format, a 2-hour race or a 2.5-hour race, multi-lap. I'm like, cool, like those races definitely have their moments, but I think we lose like the spirit of hard enduro if we go fully into that. So I like this when I seen that, like the calendar for this year's World Championship, I was like, okay, I actually quite like that because it's a mix. And whether everyone agrees with that, I'm not sure. And whether it's the right way to go forward, I don't know. But I feel like we shouldn't like lose the spirit of hard enduro and that adventure, because that's what I think is like the stories, like when you hear about watch a good recap or listen to a rider interview, and when they're like talking about some crazy stuff that happened that no one else saw, or they just got it on a GoPro. This is the kind of stuff that captures imaginations, I reckon. So I don't know.
It's the difference between Getson Rodeo and Red Bull Romaniacs. Getson Rodeo brings the crowds, brings the atmosphere on a different perspective to what Red Bull Romaniacs does. To go and be a spectator at Red Bull Romaniacs, not so easy. You're there for prologue, you get to see prologue, and maybe you get to do a couple of the days and see them in some of the tough sections. A bit better now that they got Liet Live Maniacs, which covers those tough sections. But yeah, I think that Red Bull Romaniacs is onto something also with that the Liet Live Maniacs, like covering those tough sections, bringing the most fiercest parts of the race to the viewer.
Yeah, for sure. Like I fully understand what Martin's trying to achieve there, and I think it's a good idea. But then I'm also I'm not sure how well it works because the riders aren't starting together all together. Like sometimes I've heard people say like, I don't really watch it because I'm not there at the rate. I'm not there to watch the TV. I'm there out filming or whatever. But I have heard a few people say they're like, it's not that good to watch because the riders are already broken up, they're already split. And sometimes it can be such a hard piece of track. Like once the top few guys come through, it kind of ends up into like a pushing exercise for the guys further down the order.
Yeah.
But I 100% like, and what he's doing, and some of the sections do work really well. Like they're really spectacular, and it's cool to bring that to people to watch online. But then it's kind of like, I feel like Erzberg, it lends itself so well to that. You're in the helicopter and you've got cameras, you can kind of watch what's going on. But then Romaniacs, like the cool thing about Romaniacs is the fact that you are just going, you're just covering ground, and you're in all these super remote places. And I feel like you can't be everything to everyone, if you know what I mean. I think it's sort of, there's some, you're never going to be able to do everything in one race.
It's a problem that has been spoken about so many times in so many different angles from so many different ways, and it still really has a big question mark behind it. So the way that the new championship the new promoter plans to handle this will be quite interesting. I mean, you were doing MediaMarkt TV collaborating with the Hard Enduro World Championship last year, getting to those remote places with a simple camera, pretty much bringing us to the action. And thank you for that, because that was super awesome to watch. Is there any plans like that for this year?
If I'm honest, I'm not sure. I'm struggled to make a deal with them. So my plan this year is I think I'm just going to try and go, maybe if I'm just completely independent, I will just go and try and do my thing again and just improve what I do. I've got a new camera. I just bought a new laptop, and so I need to learn and get better with all the technology and how that stuff works. Because the main thing for me is I enjoy it so much. Like, I really like being at the races, and I like telling the story, and I've discovered I really like interviewing the riders. I find this really interesting, and if I have the chance and I have the time and I have a bike there and I have the chance to go find it where the track goes, then I can nearly always, I can get into places that most people can't. And so I kind of have an advantage with that, especially if I've had something to do with the track. Like, I know where things are likely going to go wrong, or there's going to be something weird happen. So I can often try and get to these spots, and then and I think that's where the cool stuff comes out, you know, like that's where you get the drama, and you get the riders
the
like,
swearing,
you get like something going wrong, and that's where they're more likely to kind of look at you or say something, and you get the feeling off them, you know. So yeah, we'll see what happens this year, but my plan is to still be involved and just doing what I can and trying to improve, and seeing how we get on.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. For the listeners that are tuning in to this conversation right now, if you're finding any value in this episode, something that Mark and myself would really appreciate is if you just drop us a like, because that really does help us. Make sure that you subscribe to the World Hard Enduro and Media Mark TV. And that really does help us grow the show and keep the Hard Enduro content coming to you guys. But on to the next topic. You speak about track setting. I spoke in the intro that you're a world-class Hard Enduro track setter. I don't think this is an understatement, because you've been doing it for such a long time now. I want to know, what has the difficulty gone from to where it is now? Like, where are we at now on like the impossible stage of tracks?
If I was thinking about this earlier, and if I'm honest, I don't think it's got massively harder.
Okay.
In the last 10 years. Well, I don't know. The bike technology's got a bit better. The tires have got better for sure. So that's working. That's an advantage. But if I still think back and look at some of the hard stuff we used to do, like, it was still really hard. And I mean, like, Graham, if you think of like how Graham has always ridden, you know, he was the top guy and he would ride this hard stuff, and he's still relevant now, you know what I mean? When it's difficult and it suits him, he's still as good as Billy or Manny, you could say. So it's not like, I don't think I think Billy and Manny have really taken the sport to a new level, but Graham was still winning everything, you know, 12 years ago, 14 years ago, and he's still there now. So it's, you know what I mean? I don't think you can say the riding has really come along massively, because he's still good. And for sure, incrementally, the level does go up. I mean, Romaniacs is a really good example. Like, I remember you'd go out riding with Martin and he'd be like, oh, in 2010, when Chris Birch won Romaniacs, this was a gold. And I've been shown a hill where Taddy turned around on. He got sick of it. He couldn't get up and turned around. And now it's like a normal silver hill, you know? So you can see how things really have moved on. I think a lot of that is the tires and the technology with the bikes and stuff. But for sure it's got harder, and I think it will continue to improve. It will get gradually harder, but I don't think it's going to suddenly. I feel like we've had the main like if it's like a curve like that, isn't it? I think we're sort of more here now. Like, I think we've done this, like, the steep part, and now it's sort of maybe leveling off a bit.
Yeah, for sure. That's interesting, because from the outside looking in, it just all looks crazy to me, to be honest. Like, some of the sections that you see these guys go up, it's just incredible. We were fortunate enough to have Martin here in China, and we did some riding with him, and I took him on some trails, and he's like, yeah, this would be a silver track now these days. And for me, I was like, whoa, this is pretty high level. So yeah, it was really cool to see his perspective of, you know, what I think is tough, and then putting him on it and telling me where the difference would be between a gold, silver, and bronze route. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But you've worked quite a bit with organizers and you know, helping them set up these tracks, making sure that the logistics is all set up there. What do you see is like a common mistake that organizers tend to make when it comes to designing a track for a hard enduro event?
Well, often, like, things get overcomplicated, and it might not be just to do with the difficulty of or just the track itself, but also like the format of the whole event. And kind of a main rule that I try to stick to now, like what I've learned over the years, is if you have to explain a concept or a format or an idea to someone, if it needs any explanation, it's too much. Like, it's already too complicated or too hard. And often the most important thing is to just keep it as simple as possible, because if it takes any explanation, then you're leaving the door wide open for people to just mess it up and get it wrong and not understand and get confused. And so the main thing is, if I'm involved, is to just try and keep things simple in terms of format, and also how a track is also laid out, because the same way in how you sort of like organize a track and construct it, if you have too many splits or the marking is confusing, or there's just every possibility you leave open that could go wrong, eventually it will go wrong. Because, you know, if you have a race with 500 riders, for sure at least one of them will find this problem and it will send them the wrong way. And then you have too many of these problems, and then it just makes the race look terrible, you know, like then the organizers are having to do way more work to try and sort these problems out, either like send them the right way or recalculate the timing, or they're dealing with protests and all this kind of thing. So and then obviously, like when it comes to like actual track design, the easiest thing in the world is to make a really, really hard track, because all you do is just go and find some really messed up stuff and just put some arrows up it and off you go. But the balance, and I'm by no means perfect at it. Like I've had so many things that I've messed up, like so many races that I've been like, yeah, like I screwed that up, you know, like I've gone too easy or too hard or whatever.
Which race? Which race would that be?
I try to put them out of my head, or I try to learn from them. But what I mean is that like the idea is that you need to find that balance, and you need to go ride it. You need to test it. You need to know what it's like if it's raining. You need to know what it's like if it's going to be dry, and then you can try and formulate like what you're going to change and how you're going to design what you're doing to make it work on the day. Because the thing is, when it, like the weather is the main thing, you know, like if I use Serbia as an example, the last year, I don't know if you remember, like the last year we had, it was 24, I think. And the whole time
super hot.
Was
super hot.
Yeah, it was insane.
I think it was yeah.
The whole time we were scouting for that, like I was there with me and James were there scouting, and then all the track managing we were doing, it was raining like 2 or 3 days every week. So everything was wet and slippery. And so the level that I thought we were dealing with was to do with this rain. It was the lack of grip basically. And then lo and behold, basically the week or the 2 weeks before that race, it was like a heat wave. It was just so hot, so dry, everything dried out. Like the gold track turned not quite into silver, but like it was going that way, you know? And so this was like a frustrating one. And obviously it was super hot, so like the riders were just cooked. The track was long, like we probably went a bit too long, and it was like really rocky and it was just wearing guys out. And then it was also not as hard, so they were still quite bunched together, so it was intense. They were racing. And so that was a bit of a tough one, but like then you kind of have to scout a whole nother track in order to make this work when it was that dry. You'd have to do so much more work, and we just didn't have the manpower or the possibility to do that. Like we had a really small team, limited time. We did what we could. And the 2 years previous to that, I think it had worked because it had rained and it was as to what the conditions were what we'd expected. So then, like I don't know if you remember, then like Mario got to the end of day 2, I think, and kind of said, "This is not hard enduro. This was too easy." Blah blah blah.
But that's Mario, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like sat there. I was sat there on my laptop, and it came up, and I was already planning what we were going to do the next day, and I was just like, "Oh fuck!" I was like, ugh. And of course, it just went all around the world, like. Everyone, it was just everyone would have seen it if you're involved in hard enduro, and like because it's a soundbite, you know, and you're like, "Fuck's sake." But then, and so I was like, that could have been handled better. But then it's interesting because then I come back to that day, and who won that day? I don't know if you remember, but it was Graham.
Wait, of course, yeah. Oh, Graham that won.
Graham won it. So you tell me why this old guy who should be past it and hates going fast won this day that was way too easy and fast. So this was kind of like my thing. I was like, but I agree with Mario. Like I was like, yeah, it was too fast, it was too easy, it was too long, all of these things. But I was kind of like, when he said that, I think I messaged him afterwards, and I was like, dude, like, there's no point you saying this to the media. Like you're just making shit. Like the best thing you could do is message me, call me, tell me tell me what you think. And then because the only person who can actually change it for the next day is me. So and we did change it the next day. We cut a lot out and we tried to make it more condensed. So yeah, it's these sort of things are frustrating. And I think this kind of goes back to what we said really early on, like when we all need to be on the same, like we all need to be working towards a common goal. And I think that includes like the riders in those situations. They need to behave professionally. And even though I agree and I 100% know what he's saying, it's still not the best thing for the sport to say, this is shit, you know, because it doesn't look good. It doesn't look cool. And then that race, I mean, there's lots of other factors coming into that, but there's also a reason why that race didn't continue the next year. And we couldn't get the entries. We couldn't get, you know, we had a really strong start, but for some reason, whatever reason, and I have lots of different theories on this, it never, we couldn't make it work. So yeah, and it's a shame because I think that place is like Serbia. That it is such a cool place to go riding and so much potential. But yeah, even if you have all the right ingredients, we couldn't quite make it work. So yeah.
Some solid advice there, I think, for the event organizers to just keep it simple. But I completely understand later in your conversation speaking about how difficult it is to try to please everyone because you're just not gonna. And honestly, Mario is one of those riders that is quite vocal about making the track as hard as possible. He's on the far extreme of as technical as it can be. So you will definitely hear it from him first.
For sure. And I've spoken to him about this a lot. Like, we've had quite a few different conversations with him. And he's even admitted, he's like, if you were to design a track exactly how he wants, what he talks about, then I think you end up with trial GP. You know, you end up with two or three riders who can ride to that level, and you kill it. And you have a class, like Gold Class would have 9 riders in it, you know? Like you look at Trial GP, like it's gone, like Trials went from having hundreds of riders in the 80s to now being such a fine, narrow, like elite sport. And I think we have to be careful that hard enduro doesn't end up like that, because it's, you know, I can make it for sure. I can go out there and I can make a track for Mario, Billy and Manny. And good luck to everyone else. You know, I'm sure the other guys would do it. Some guys can do it too. But, you know, it's someone like me. I'm not going to be able to turn up and compete with that. So
it's a good, seriously good point there. And I think overall winner for Serbia that year was Wade, right?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. Wade won it overall, and which is not too surprising because that's his kind of. It's a bit like the Roof of Africa, rocky, fast, like you're just on it the whole time, and he's really good at that stuff. And again, that also kind of brings back that essence of what hard enduro is. It's really up to the elements that you're thrown. Some tracks are a bit faster than others. Some are more technical than others. You just got to be good at it all. You need to try to manage where you are weak and, you know, excel when you are strong. And that's the best rider is that person, the hard enduro world champion. Exactly. Like a hard enduro rider has to be adaptable, has to be able to ride fast and ride hard stuff. And like, I think like when I've raced Romaniacs and like all the time I've spent there track managing and riding, some of my most enjoyable parts have been riding the bronze class track, like with flowy, like loamy berms through in full gear,
ripping,
just through like an open forest. Like I don't think you can beat that feeling, you know.
No, it's so good.
And I think you need to have the hard stuff, the hard ups and downs, and then some of that stuff so you actually like you can loosen your hands up, put it in fourth or fifth, and actually feel some like a different sensation, not just groveling up like a never-ending hill, you know?
It's hard enduro is such a unique sport, man. You really got to have it all. Imagine taking a moto or MXGP rider and saying, "Hey, here's a hill climb, a hard like a gold hill climb." There's no ways I don't think these riders are going to get up there. But take a hard enduro rider and ask him to do a triple or a double or a big table on a track. They could actually get to the point of getting over that. Maybe not fast, and you know, and that's like with the hard enduro, you got to know how to do it all. You need to know how to jump, ride fast, get up hills, get through technical sections.
Yeah, I mean, you look
makes
at
them
someone
so
like
unique.
Billy, like who really is a proper all-round rider. Like he can ride motocross well. He can do beach races. He can ride trials. He can ride hard enduro. You know, like it's there's not very many people who can. Very few people who can do that much stuff. Yeah.
Before we get into some bench racing, because I'm quite excited to do that with you, because you are one of the best guys to be able to do this with, I want to find out a little bit more about what your thoughts are about the Hard Enduro World Ranking System. So we spoke a bit about the Red Bull Romaniacs, Erzberg, Carl and Martin have taken upon themselves to create this ranking system, some big prize money behind it, brings a lot of events involved, gets a lot of riders entered without even having to pay an entrance fee to the event, to the championship, at least to the ranking system. What are your thoughts behind it?
Well, there's a whole can of worms. I'm not sure if this is the time or place for me to talk about it. But to be honest, when I first heard about this, I was kind of I was a bit disappointed. I was sort of like, is this really what we need? Because I feel like it's basically trying to dilute what the World Championship is. Because obviously now Romaniacs and Erzberg not being involved in the championship, they're trying to obviously create something that keeps them relevant, which I think at least in the near, medium, probably long term as well, they're still going to be relevant. They're the two biggest races in the world. So I don't think they really have to be anything to worry, they have nothing to be worried about in that respect. But yeah, I guess it's kind of, I think most people probably understand it as being a bit of a rivalry between the two. So my hope is that it doesn't dilute either, because now you have these two sort of ranking or championship systems, and in a way they're surely going to dilute the relevance of each other a little bit. Obviously, yeah, Martin's system is easier to get involved in, and for the right, it appeals to riders because it has this prize money. So that's simple. I can see why that's appealing to a lot of people. But then the World Championship, obviously, it has the official FIM stamp on it, and it's kind of more tailored to the events should be to run to a more consistent, higher standard. So I don't know. It's one of these things we're going to have to see how it pans out. But because personally, I come from mountain biking, and we would race World Cups, and you'd have a World Cup ranking, and that's what you kind of look at. You'd see where people have come up. You look at the results from each race, and then the overall. And then there was also a UCI ranking for overall riders, and I had no idea. No one really cared what was happening on that ranking. So maybe this, I don't know, you see what I mean?
Yeah, there's one that will always stand somewhere that people are looking at more than the other.
Yeah. So let's see. I think it depends where the riders are going, who's supporting what, where the teams are going, and yeah. So
I also think who's putting a lot behind the marketing, to push it from a social media, a digital marketing perspective, because, if you put enough behind it, you can make it look a lot bigger and a lot better than it is, which obviously gets a lot more views, a lot more interest into it. And also I think the one thing that the ranking system, what I like about it at least, is that it's bringing the event organizers in as well. So now there's a kind of a carrot for the event organizers to say that they are part of this ranking system, so to hopefully attract more riders, more entries, and just basically grow the ecosystem. It would be nice to see them. I wouldn't say that there's no ways that they're working together, the FIM Honjo World Championship and the ranking system, but if there's a world where both of them can live and hopefully at the end of the day have the same goal of growing the sport, then we're winning. But if it starts becoming a battle, then it's a bit of a different one.
Then it's helping the sport as a whole.
No, yeah, honest, and that's what I care about, is the sport growing. Yeah. So yeah, whatever we can do to do that, let's do that.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So bench racing, let's get into this, because I'm quite keen. We've got a new year. We've got some incredible riders lining up at the first round of this Hard Enduro World Championship. I think my biggest question, and the thing that's plaguing my mind at the moment the most, especially coming off the last round last year at Roof of Africa, when do we see the junior riders start properly pushing those top riders and stand on the top of the box?
Yeah, well, I mean, James didn't just push them, he beat them in South Africa. Obviously, he knows that place, and there's definitely an advantage that those South Africans have there. But it's not like he just came a close second or third or whatever. He straight up beat Billy and Manny, and he on the last day he had to come from behind. He had issues. I watched him go the wrong way. His GPS was turning off. It was super impressive. Because the thing with Billy and Manny, if we use those two as an example, like you put them anywhere in the world and they are just so good and their class is so high and they have so much experience and so much ability, is like normally the hometown advantage eventually just sort of fizzles out. You take those guys anywhere and they can deliver.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
The way that he beat them, even though it's in his more of his backyard, it's still mega. And so, and I think this is really cool. Like, it's important. It's what we need. You know, we need these guys. Like Mitch is coming through. Mitch has been kind of knocking on the door, and I feel like he was like maybe a little bit like frustrated this year. Like he kind of felt like he should have been doing a little bit better. But I've spoken to him a few times and like his parents, and I said, look, you got to remember, like when Manny was coming through, it's not like he suddenly just arrived and was just winning everything. He had like 2, 3, 4 years where he was sort of like getting like 6th and 5th and 4th, and then you get a podium and he was like there or thereabouts. And I feel like he's just gathering data, you're gaining experience, you know, he's learning how to train, learning how to set the bike up, all this kind of stuff. So I feel like it's almost inevitable that like Mitch will take that next step as well in the next couple of years. It might not even be this one, but like it feel like eventually he will as well. James is obviously really right there too. So I feel like this year I don't see it happening.
Okay.
I feel like those guys are gonna. I think they will get closer and closer, and that's what we need. Is we need like a more competitive podium. Like,
yes,
this is what
agreed
for the interest in the sport, you know. And then there's also like I'm super excited to see like Toby Martin for one. Like he's absolutely mega trials rider, and I'm really glad that like he's involved with Stark now. It's like giving him another chance to get into it. And Lorenzo Gandola, he's like I think he's on Sherco, isn't he?
I'm not sure actually.
Yeah. So I think he's the new the new Sherco rider, and he's really exciting. Like he was European, I think he was a European trials champ, and I really like his style. Like I watched him a bit in 2 years ago in Abertoni. He came and raced, and he's like a little beefcake, and he's got some power, got a bit of like spark to him, which is cool.
Yeah.
Like he kind of reminds me a little bit maybe of Billy, like how he'll have a go, and he's sort of like he came to Getson. I think he came 7th or 8th, which is huge. First proper World Championship race to be in there, especially at Getson, like that's huge. You know, like you can't really. I don't think you can ignore that. Like that's clear potential. So
yeah.
So it should be good.
Cool. I'm really looking forward to it. Like and I'm from bit biased from like a South African perspective. I know that there's a lot of talent from South Africa, young talent coming through to race the Hard Enduro World Championship, or at least the junior class. For me, that's super exciting. Like I see South Africa Hard Enduro being at the place of like massive growth at the moment. There's money, there's teams, there's budget behind supporting these youth riders, and that's exactly what we need in order to grow the sport. So I'm looking forward to see what they can do against the boys. I feel like maybe in 5 years the South Africans might be like kind of the powerhouse in a way. Like I was really impressed the same like when I went to Roof last year, and you could see like the depth there was loads of these keen juniors, and they're young, and their dads are in there. They've got the support, and like it's a really cool. It just seems like a cool environment. It might be the opposite in reality. It might be really toxic. I hope not, but it seemed like a really nice place to hang out. And like there was lots of enthusiasm, and I think some of them are going to America maybe a bit this year, or they're like trying to come over to Europe. But it's mega, and it's funny because South Africa's always been strong for hard enduro. They've always had the roof. And they've got some really good riders, and they've but I feel like now this new wave of guys might really like actually push it to the next level, and it'll become like an actual like rival to Europe in many ways. I agree, and also because the platform is there for them, like they can now enter into a junior championship. Like it's been like that for a little while now, with Matt and James taking championships in that junior class, pretty much paving the way for a lot of these younger South Africans, saying like to their mom and dad, saying like, hey, like I want to do that, like let's work towards that, let's put that on the calendar for 3 years from now. And I guess we get at that 3-year point now where they're like, okay, we're strong, we grown ups now, let's go try and make this happen. Because we need a pathway for kids to see, like to follow, so their parents can actually be like, oh right, I can actually see like, he's racing, he's like riding here in his own home country. And then, we can start to do a couple of these small international races, and then we can go to Europe and we can start to do this.
and there's possibility that he can get sponsored and get on a team and get support. Not just like we're not just the parents being like, okay, we're gonna have to support this kid all the way to the end, whether he makes it or not.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And if there's only five like proper sponsored factory rides available, it's not really a thing you're gonna like throw your life at it, is it? You're gonna be more like, okay, maybe just go to university, you know?
Yeah. Got you.
A job that, you know, get a solid job, because this whole hard enduro thing is a bit like, yeah.
And also the issue also comes in with injuries and things like that as well. Like the sport's so uncertain when it comes to, you know, a clear pathway. Like some people just have it in them and just get lucky, you know, like they get lucky with no serious injuries. They hit the right races at the right time with the right stamina and make it happen. But some of them, like, you know, you can't avoid injury at all the time. So yeah, that's one of the things. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And what are your thoughts about the British youth as well? Because I see a lot of Brits, and they've, you know, historically been very strong with hard enduro because of the conditions that they're constantly riding in, just wet, slippery, snotty riding, looking for traction the whole time, which bodes really well when it comes to, you know, racing this championship. Do we see more of them coming across as well, and see them start tackling?
Yeah, I mean, there's already like Toby Shaw, and then there's the young kid on the Sherco, Connor Watson.
Yeah, he took the 125 in
exactly in Super Enduro,
Yeah.
and I think he made it to the top of the hill last year at Sea to Sky on a 125.
Wow, that's
I'm
impressive.
pretty sure. Yeah, so like, yeah, and if anything, like they've got the English have more of a pedigree. You know what I mean? Like they've already they have these big stars. And a lot of them come from trials. Like there's things South Africa doesn't have. It just doesn't have a trials scene.
It doesn't, hey? It's doesn't.
Weird. Yeah. Like there's like, I don't know, like Wild Will and that, you know, he takes some kids riding and they do a bit, and now like you see Matt and Kyle and James out on their trials bikes, but they weren't doing it when they were 6 years old, 7 years old. You know what I mean? So there's definitely like, that's really interesting how it's like a cultural difference. They just miss the whole. There's just no trials backbone. But then England's obviously the opposite of that. It's so strong with like national level and like regional level trials, and all the dads rode trials, you know, so that the kids' first bikes are often trials bikes. And so I feel like, so in a way the Brits kind of have an advantage there, because like you look at the Brightmoors, you look at Billy, you look at Johnny, you know, it's all from trials.
Graham.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like so, OG.
Yeah. And they have like I think their national series, like for hard enduro, seems to be going pretty well.
The British Extreme,
Extreme, and and like you say, they ride in such crappy, shitty conditions the whole time.
Yeah.
So when they get onto something, they come over to Europe and they're like, oh, this is actually quite easy, you know.
Yeah. One more nation I want to throw into this, and that's USA. I mean, I think that they are doing such a stellar job when it comes to the hard enduro championship that they've got going there, the coverage that they've got going. It's super well put together. It's so interesting when we get Mario racing against, now at Grindingstone, we had Mario racing against Trista and Matt there as well. It's so cool to see them go head to head. Is there a world where we see all of these nations come together? Like imagine that. Imagine like a Des Nations for hard enduro.
I've actually I was thinking or talking about this with someone last year. I can't remember who it was, but like imagine if you could come up with some kind of format to like make this work, and which race you could do it at and where you'd have to do it. But yeah, the Americans have come on really strong, and like their national series, like Josh Sketcher, like he came over to Romaniacs years ago. And he was like, he just came over and he's like, I just want to learn and see and like understand how it works. And so he was like coming out with us, and we sort of, he was just like a sponge. He was just picking stuff up. And I was like really impressed the fact that he didn't come over trying to like with any ego. He was just like, right,
macho.
He just came over and was like, right, this is where it's at now. Let's just see how you guys do it. And then he went back to America and like he's built that championship up. And I know, having spoken to him, it definitely wasn't easy. Like he's really had to fight for it. But like, I think the proof is in the pudding now. Like it's really starting to like gain traction, and it's growing, and he's attracting more and more international riders. Like the fact that Mario's there, Matt was there. I know some more South Africans are going. Like he's, you know, and I think then that's probably the next area where the sport is probably going to actually really grow. And I think that will be huge for us too, because then there will be like a rival to Europe. And
Yeah.
but
AMA
I have
versus
wondered
F1.
about this Des Nations idea. I thought maybe you could have like a team of 2 or 3 riders. And so for enduro and mountain biking, they do like a donations, and I've been to one in Finale Ligure a few years ago. And so you have 3 riders, they start at the same time, and they ride the stage together, and the time starts when the first rider breaks the beam and it finishes when the third rider breaks the beam.
Okay. Yeah.
So
It's a proper
like
teamwork.
it's not like trial donations where they kind of just each ride the sections
Points.
like normal,
Yeah,
and you add them up and you drop your worst one, however it works. It was actually like you're all in this together. So if one guy crashes, he's got to catch up and like pin it to get back on the back of his mates to like save the team result. So then I was wondering, like maybe for hard enduro you could do the similar sort of thing, like just have, whether it's a point-to-point or a multi-lap race, but you've got to have all 3 of them together, and it's actually so there is sort of a bit of an incentive to work together and ride and like look out for each other.
Yeah.
I think it would be pretty cool to do.
That's wicked. I think we need to work on this a little bit, because that's something that would really be cool to view from a spectator, and kind of just bring everyone together. I think that would be the biggest point, is just having everyone together, having fun, doing the hard enduro thing and coming out with the victor. There's always the bragging rights, like, oh, we got the trophy last year, we're defending champion, we're the best in the world, like having the bragging rights, and hopefully that raises the level up. Every year someone wants to be better, someone wants to beat it.
And I'm fascinated with the motocross donations, because I find it super interesting, and you're always like the underdog, like when the Aussies are beating the Americans, you're like, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
With hard enduro, you'd have, I guess South Africa would be really strong. The Americans could be good, but they don't have Tristan because he's Canadian.
Good point.
Then like Germany, like obviously Manny's mega, but there's not like they've got some good guys coming through, but there isn't really a super strong second and third. And then obviously England would be the favourite.
Yeah, I agree.
And then but then obviously it would be a cool thing to watch and see.
Yeah. That would be awesome.
Doing it for your country, like not just for yourself. You can imagine it coming down to the final climb or like a final hazard or big step, and like someone has to do this absolute hero line to like win it for their country. That would be mega.
Oh, I'd sign up for that. That would be awesome to watch. I think Spain would do pretty well as well. I think that they've got some really solid riders. Maybe not, right there at the top of the hard enduro side just yet, but I think they've got a good width, like depth of riders there that could
for sure really good. I think it would be super competitive, like really competitive, like having a donations like that. Yeah, for sure.
Yes, dude, that would be awesome. So we're pretty much getting to the end of this podcast, but we have a bit of a tradition now for 2026, and it's all in the aims of trying to help younger riders find their way inside the sport, hopefully making a career out of it. I'm excited to ask you this question, because previously we've asked like riders themselves, and the riders are all about, train hard, try to become the best, but then also there's a sense of like, create a business behind it, create the social media. So I'm interested to get your perspective on this and see how much it aligns with them. But the question is, for younger riders, do you have any advice for them in order to make hard enduro a career, or racing motorcycles, or even just being part of the industry, turn it into a career?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not a very good person to ask, because my like social media is so weak. Like I've never really bought into that or like built that up. So, I mean, in terms of like from the riding perspective, I think you have to make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. Like you're doing it because you yourself really want to be the best, or you want to be the man, not because your dad wants to be. Because you really want to be there, you like riding, and you're willing to do whatever it takes to work for it and make it happen. You've got to be prepared to put yourself in that right position and train hard or harder than anyone else, and go home and work on your weaknesses and just keep pushing and keep trying. And with hard enduro, I think like you have to have your added, like your mental fortitude, your mental ability, like in those races when it's going wrong. That's what sets them apart from the guys who are good riders but don't have the like the mental stability or the mental toughness to make it work. And I think, like, if you look at all the top guys, like all the top riders who have been around for a few years and have made the sport work for them, they are all like gnarly, like mentally gnarly, and they've been through, like, they've come back from like savage injuries, or they've been in situations in races or wherever where like most people would just nearly people would just give up, or like, you know, just give it away. But they'll just like battle on through and get a finish, and like, you know, and that's what I think the team, like especially teams like if you look at KTM or Husky, they recognize that and they see that, and they're like, oh yeah, this guy, he's willing to like almost die for this sport or for this ride, you know what I mean? And I think that's and that's maybe something that can't really be taught. Like I kind of feel like that sort of mental toughness is, you kind of just have it or you don't. So if you've got it, like it works out, and if you don't, I think it's a really hard thing to learn. So yeah, I'm not really sure where I'm going with this, but that's just like
I love
like
it. No.
I've noticed that when you talk to Graham, you talk to Alfredo, you talk to Mario, you talk to Billy, you talk to Manny, like although they are all incredibly talented riders and like so absolutely mega on the bike, they've had plenty of times where it's gone to shit. And they've just kept at it and worked through it and like ridden through an injury or something and just come back, you know, so.
Yeah, epic. Yeah, thanks for that. I think super helpful. Yeah, man, the mind, like there's nothing that can prepare you for what you can experience inside these races. And, you know, whether it's just 40 degrees outside or it's, you know, -1 and it's freezing outside, it's the conditions throw you so many different curveballs, and you have to be ready for it on a mental side. And it's something that you can't really train yourself unless you putting yourself in a sauna and then jumping straight into an ice bath while just getting punched, you know, from side to side to try to like take that in. But it's not easy.
No, for sure. Yeah.
Mark, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. We welcome you to come back at any time in the year as well to chat about hard enduro. And to any of the listeners that have stayed until the end of this episode, I know that you guys have enjoyed this episode. So the thing that you can do that can help us would be subscribing to our channels. That would be really helpful. And I hope to see you at a race sometime this year. We'll be at Romaniacs this year. Taryn is entered. She's doing her first Red Bull Romaniac, so we're going to be supporting her throughout that race.
I be smoking on them off.